What's up, you guys? In this one, I'm going to talk about why going to the club is a terrible ROI, but how you can turn it into an asset for you, not only in your dating life, but also just in your life in general. So if you don't know who I am, my name is King Raxo. I run the Dating for Kings podcast. All I'm trying to do is help you get better with women. So I'm sharing all of the ideas, all of the concepts, all of the things that are just in my reality that I do that can help you, because these concepts have helped me become better with women. They've helped me become better with just conversations in general, social skills, my whole work, my whole career, everything like that. And so if I can pass this on to you and show you how to get better in this area of your life and your whole life gets better, then I've done my job. When it comes to gaining skill as a conversationalist, which is a skill that pays dividends, like I said, not only with women, but also in your work, in your business life, there is no better place to work on this than by going to a nightclub. So talking to the most attractive women, which is probably something that's making you feel uncomfortable, or it makes you feel like, okay, this is a challenge, right? You're going to the most popping club in your city that has the best looking women in it, and you're dealing with the challenges that come with that. It makes you better with women very, very quickly due to the amount of reps, the amount of rejections, and the successes that you have. So even on those nights where you go to the club and you strike out, the thing is that you may feel bad about it because you didn't get any play that night, or some of your conversations went bad, but you're learning throughout that process subconsciously, and you're taking that to your next situation when you're in person with a woman. The thing about the club that is crazy, right, is that it has the best women in there, but it's just not a great return on investment. And since we're men and we have to think logically about how we allocate our time, our attention, our resources, it's important not to turn the club scene into like one of your monthly expenses, right? So the average guy who sees the club and they start going, you realize that you're paying 200, 250 a night on drinks, on maybe you bought a section, maybe you buy some girls some drinks, right? Just have fun, you had a fun night, Ubers, all of that, right? So what we're not trying to do is turn something that, let's say you go to the club 2 times a month, you're paying $500 a month for access to a club just to get some women who are like ran through. A lot of these women who are going out that night, they're drinking a lot. They probably won't even remember the interaction the next 5 minutes, let alone the next day. Finding a good woman in the club, one that's attractive enough to want to get with while she also has a good head on her and stuff like that, it's like finding a diamond in the rough. But it is possible, right? I just did it this weekend. The first thing that I did this weekend, right, is I went to a club that didn't have a cover charge, okay? So in smaller cities, I think it's normal for like popping clubs with like great looking girls to still have no cover charge, right? But if you're in a bigger city and you want to find clubs that have like special deals or promos that you can get in for free or like a lower charge, you can do what I do, is just go into eventbrite.com, or if you have the app Discotheque, right? If you're in a bigger city, you'll find a couple of them, right? It'll show you all the popping clubs that are going on in your city, all the events that are going on, if there's any festivals, things like that. And it just helps you know like what is going on and what, like, where to go, right? So one really, really big thing that I do that is really, really important to me is I don't want to just go to any club. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to just go to like a random bar. I want to go to the one that I know for sure is going to have like the best environment, the best ratio, the best women. Because what's the point of going out and trying to get better at this skill of conversating, or trying to get better at just talking to women and like getting them? What's the point of going out if I'm not going to a place that has the dimes, the best girls in my city? And so make sure you use these apps, or make sure you use Eventbrite to like see what are the most popping things that are going on. So the second thing that I did this weekend is I peeped the energy of the room. This is important. I've made a video on this in the past where I said, like, when I approach women, the first thing that I do is I pay attention to what's going on around me, right? And so in the same thing like a club, the reason why this is important is because in most club environments, as my friends know really well, I'm running heavy volume, okay? So like any woman that's attractive, I'm gonna talk to her, because I know that's what I need to do to rack up enough numbers to lead to something like dates that week, or me going home with a woman that night, if that's what I'm trying to do, right? However, in the club that I was in this weekend, I could feel like the energy was different, right? It wasn't an open environment. It was more like women going to tables, which are like sections. They were getting the drinks from the guys who had the sections, and they would just hop to the next guy's table and do the same thing. And so as I'm peeping what's going on, I'm seeing the like how this shit is playing out. I'm like, okay, I can't just use the same game that I use in every other club, which is just pulling up, walking up to women and approaching them, because that's not the right thing to do in this environment, right? And since I didn't buy a table, right, I made sure to keep my cool and not just approach every single woman in there at the beginning. See, the club is all about perceived value. There's no sign on the top of your head that shows how much money you make, right? There's no sign on the top of your head that shows who you are. And I always say, like, there's certain places which are the great equalizers, right? The club is the equalizer, the gym is an equalizer, right? These are places where you have to just be you, because there's no sign on the top of your head that says, oh, this is how much money he makes, or this is who he is. No one knows your name, right? And so the way that people judge you is based off the way that you carry yourself, the way that you dress, just who you are, right? Like how your personality is. And so someone like me that gets in for free to this club has the same access to the women in there as somebody who paid $3,000 for a table. And clubs understand this really, really well. So they play into a lot of men's need for that elevated perception, that elevated status, since the club is an equalizer. And so that's why tables cost so much, right? Is because tables and sections are seen as like a status symbol, right? You can buy the same drinks at the bar. You can go to the bar and buy the same drink for $20. Or you can sit at this table and buy it for $300, right? Because it's proof to women that you're paying a lot of money, which to women, since they don't know who you are, there's no sign on the top of your head that says, I make money, right? Everybody's dressed in nice clothes. It means that if you're willing to pay $300 for a bottle, then that must mean you are a valuable man, or more valuable than the regular guys who are going to the bars to buy drinks, or the regular guys who just aren't buying drinks at all. One thing I want to make clear is that buying a table is a terrible investment. I have bought tables in the past. I've gone with friends who have bought tables. It's a terrible investment. I'm going to make this clear. Do not buy tables. It's a terrible investment. They'll come to the table. They'll take your drinks. If you're not, like, if you didn't come to the party with these women, take your drinks. They'll go to somebody else's table and take their drinks. They're just table hoppers. That's what we call them, right? You start paying more for liquor to get these women to come back, and there's no guarantee that these women even want you. So it's a terrible investment. It's like I'm paying $180 for a bottle here, $300 for a bottle here. At the end of the night, we're paying $2,500, and then these women are like, "Oh, I'm gonna go home." And it's like no one's forcing them to do anything. We don't force women to do anything over here. But it's just, what was the return on that investment? A number? You got a girl's number? Well, I can do that while paying $0, and I'm gonna tell you how. The thing I want to make clear is, if you dress well, you focus on having a good time with your friends, you dance and not worry about what anyone else thinks of you. And this is very important, just not worrying about what anyone else thinks of you, anyone's judgment. You're securing yourself, and you keep a stoic facial expression, which shows elevated status. There's something about that energy that just tells women that you are okay with who you are. People's egos and their insecurities is what forces them to buy a table in the first place, right? Because you want to feel like you're at an elevated status, right? You want to feel better than anyone in there, right? But when you are okay while paying $0, right? I didn't pay for a cover charge. You didn't pay for any drinks for women. You didn't pay for a table, but you feel okay with that, and you're okay with who you are. Women notice, right? Because your energy is just attractive. As we were in there, my friend was telling me that a lot of the women were looking at me, right? Like a lot of the girls in there. But I didn't notice it because my focus was literally just on having a good time. I know that if I just focus on having a good time, women are going to want to be around me, right? And so that's the energy that you need to be in order to raise your own perceived value in a nightclub without showing monetary value by like buying drinks, buying tables, talking about your achievements, or flashing hella chains and jewelry, right? It's the energy that says that you are somebody. So much so that you're secure in yourself in a sea of insecure people. 80% of people who are at the club are super insecure. Everything that I just said before, right? They're buying tables, they're buying drinks for women, they're doing the most. Everybody's like trying to be the big dog, right? Everyone's insecure. And so when you're securing yourself and you're just cool with who you are and you're having a good time genuinely, women are going to notice you, and they're going to be like, wow, that guy stands out from everybody else in here. So they're going to start giving you looks. And when they're giving you these looks and what people call like choosing signals, and you don't give a fuck and you're still doing you, it makes them want you even more because they're like, oh, he's used to this. He's used to getting looks, right? That must mean that he actually is somebody. Even though, I wasn't paying attention to him, of course, I'm there for women, right? So after some time, I started talking to the women who would pass by me, right? Like I said before, the energy of the room was one where going from one, like I could see a girl who's attractive, but I'm not going to go from one side of the club all the way over to her because it wasn't that type of night. It would feel like chasing in that type of environment. It would be an admission of like lower value and like desperation if I was to do that. So as the women were passing by me, that's when I would start a conversation with them. I talked to 4 women that night. I got rejected by the first one. It wasn't that harsh. It was just a normal rejection. And then the next 3 I talked to, I had really, really good convos with them and I got their numbers. I got with one of them the next day and the other 2 I actually haven't texted yet. I should probably text them today. In total, I spent $0. Okay, and this is the thing that I want to make clear. I spent $0 that night and I probably ended up with better whatever results, if you want to call them results, than guys who were in there spending $2,500 on a table. And so I've been sober since October, so that's part of the reason I didn't spend any money is because I wasn't buying drinks even for myself. But the whole point of this spiel is to teach you guys how to lower the cost of your dating life so it doesn't become like a bill on your monthly balance sheet. You do not need to buy a table to get the best women in the club. I've proven it myself. You do not need to buy women drinks to get them in the club. I've proven it myself. You do not need to even get drunk yourself to get women in the club. And this is one thing that I've proven myself, but I really want to make this clear. You do not need to drink alcohol excessively to be able to conversate really, really well with women in the club. You just have to be secure in who you are. If you feel like you have to be drunk to talk to women, or you feel like you have to buy them drinks, or you feel like you have to buy a table, you have to realize that you're spending all this money, even making yourself drunk, just to heal an insecurity that you feel about how you're going to be judged by the other person. And so you have to throw out all of these false notions, right? And watching a video like this is going to help you because you're seeing someone who is able to live without those false notions, right? And thrive without them. So if you're going to a club and spending 2 or more hours of your life there, there's no point in not talking to like the most attractive women there, right? They're there to meet a man like you. That's why they got ready. And so go for it, right? Don't let any rejection stop you. And don't just let getting one girl's number make you think to yourself, oh, she's going to be the one. And like you just stop there, right? You have to run heavy volume. So normally if it wasn't a club where it was like that, where it was like the energy was kind of off, it wasn't the type where you want to run heavy volume. Like most times I'm talking to like 15 to 20 girls on an average club night, right? Because things are random, right? You never know what's going to happen and like who you're going to end up with. So if I'm talking to 15 or 20 of the most attractive girls in the club, the one that I think I have the best vibe with might not be the one that I necessarily end up getting with, right? It might be the one who lives closest to me or the one who we see each other towards the end and we just end up leaving together, right? So you never know what's going to happen. And so you just have to go for it. If you follow this paradigm, the good thing is that you'll be operating in an environment that helps your conversation skills a lot. Women in clubs are so closed off, they're so egotistical, right? That it takes a high level of skill to open them up. Being able to talk to a woman who's a stranger, get her laughing and get her to be attracted to you all while the music is playing loud as shit. People are drunk around you. You have to be on alert because fights could pop off, anything like that. Making her feel safe enough to want to be around you, making her attracted enough to want to be on you. All of this takes a lot of skill, right? And as you get better at it, as you practice it, I know it sounds like this is a fucking sport, but yeah, as you practice it, it ends up being a huge, huge asset because you're doing all of this while spending $0. So you're getting women, you're teaching your mind how to get women from a secure state, spending $0, and you're turning something from a huge time waste into something that's helping you. Now, when you are not in a nightclub, when you see a woman at a grocery store, a mall, or in a warm setting, these are the best ones. Like you see a woman at one of your friend's events or your friend's house, whatever it is. The conversation skills that you built by doing it in the hardest situation possible, which is the club, it can be used to your benefit and your conversations are going to flow way more easy. It's going to feel like it's literally easy to bag women in more warmer environments because you've already done it in the hardest situation. So doing it in an easier situation, it's literally just normal to you. The point of this whole thing is to say, stop spending hella money at clubs on women who are ran through. Spend $0. Try to opt for places that you can spend $0. Use those websites that I told you about, the app that I told you about. Try to find the best places to go for the least amount of money. Also, run heavy volume. Talk to all the girls in there. Use your time well. Don't just get one girl's number and be like, okay, that's it. Like, that's the girl I'm going to end up with. Don't get rejected by one girl and be like, oh, it's not my night. Don't get drunk. Like, you can probably have a drink or two. Don't get drunk, and work on your conversation skills to the point where it's something that turns into an asset for you even after you leave the club. All right, if you do all of these things, going to the club won't be this thing that you wake up the next morning, you're like, fuck, like I need to stop doing this. Like, oh, this is such a waste of time, whatever. You're literally gonna look at it like, okay, that was a benefit to my life because I didn't lose money. I didn't lose, consciousness. I didn't drink myself into a fucking slumber. And I talked to a bunch of girls and I got better at this skill that now is gonna help me in other parts of my life. All right. Thank you guys again for listening. If you're listening on podcast form, make sure to subscribe. I really want to thank you guys for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. All right. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys on the next one.